This is Kylie from Counseling with Kylie, and today we're going to be talking about you, your kids, and rules. What makes a good rule? How do you know that you're enforcing it properly? What happens when rules are broken? We're going to talk about that today. First thing that we want to do with a rule is have it be explicit so that the kids know what the rules are. I'm a big fan of having a family rules chart, which can sound really intimidating because you might think, oh, there's 1,000 rules, we can never put them all down. A lot of times we think of rules as don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Saying things positively really makes a big difference. Saying we're going to be respectful to each other gives this feeling of respectfulness to each other instead of we don't call each other names. You think of calling someone a name when you say don't, and then it breaks off and goes call each other names, and that's what you're thinking of. You're mentally picturing calling each other names. In another video, I did a little exercise where I said, okay, don't think of a purple elephant. And basically everybody thinks of a purple elephant when you do that. So instead of saying don't do whatever it is, we're going to say do the things that we want you to do. And it really seems like a little thing, but the way that we use language really impacts how our kids internalize these rules and how they respond to them with their actions. So whenever possible, we're going to put positive rules. So instead of we don't hit each other, it's going to be we respect each other's bodies. That's the whole thing, from hitting each other, pinching each other, pushing each other, being in each other's space even. That is one that is really good for the I'm not touching you. That's not respecting their body. Like, you're in their space, and we respect each other's personal space too. I'm all for explicit rules and having rules that are like up on the wall where we can go, these are the rules of our household. The next one is consistent rules. These are the rules of our household. They're up on the wall all the time, and that means that we're going to enforce them all the time. And it is definitely acceptable to have rules where under this circumstance we do it one way and under another circumstance we do it another way. I remember in my household growing up that if mom had made a nice dinner and we were sitting down at the table, we had to have nice manners. But if it was like pizza night, that is when we could burp at the table and it wasn't horrible. So that's a time when it's not that we didn't enforce the rule, but there was a clear line. We knew, like my mom would say, hey, I made a nice dinner. We're going to behave nicely at the table. When we have pizza, you can have that. But right now, I worked really hard to make beef stroganoff, so you're going to be nice at this table because you gotta at least practice it sometimes. The next step is everyone in the household should follow all the rules. So there's definitely some exceptions. Definitely 5-year-olds can't drive a car. Only grown-ups can drive a car, or older teenagers, or whatever the laws are in your area. With those, we can say, hey, this is a rule of the land, or sometimes we'll have like bedtimes for different kids and stuff, and we can get into that later. But for the most part, if there's a rule of we speak nicely to each other, then adults need to not be yelling at kids, even if they're upset and disciplining them. If we have be nice to each other's bodies, I really feel that that includes spanking. Of even if someone is being disciplined, that doesn't give you the right to be able to hurt someone else's body, because that's really setting the precedent of if someone does something wrong, you can hurt them. And little kids get a lot of ideas in their head about what's right and what's wrong. Like, they're playing with that toy that I want, and that's wrong, therefore I can go hit them. So I realize there's a lot of people who feel very strongly one way or the other about spanking. I don't think it's the end of the world the way that some people say it is. There is no evidence that shows that it's helpful at all, and a fair amount of evidence that shows that it's not helpful. I realize a lot of people are like, my parents whooped me and I turned out fine. You know, that might be true. That might be totally true. And to build a respectful, reciprocal relationship with your children, my advice is to have the same rules for everyone, and one of those rules for your kids is going to be we respect each other's bodies. And that means not hitting each other, or pinching, or kicking, or pulling hair, all that stuff. And the reason that we're all following these rules is that kids mimic everything we do. And sometimes it can be a little terrifying that everything you do is going to be parroted by them. Like, the one time you curse is the time the kid is listening and parrots it back. They are going to do what they see. So if they see parents who are yelling at each other and calling each other names and fighting, they're going to think, oh, this is okay. This is how you treat other people. And if you don't want your kids thinking it's okay to treat people like that, then you've got to start walking the walk and talking the talk, or at least doing it where they don't see or hear you. They'll still probably catch on, but that's at least better than doing it directly in front of them. Even little things like saying please and thank you. If you want your kids to do that, then you need to do that to them. They hand you a crayon and say, oh, thank you for handing me the crayon. They learn that that's the normal way that people speak, if that's important to you. If you're in the car and you're looking at your phone when they're driving, once they get to that age, they're gonna have internalized that it's okay to look at their phone while they're driving, which is really dangerous. It's up there with drunk driving. That's one of those things where our kids see us doing it, they're going to model back to us. They're going to do the things that they saw us doing. You've got to live this life to the standard of what you want your kids to do, which is tough. We are only human. Sometimes we're going to fail. We're going to talk about if an adult breaks a rule first. Sometimes you're going to break a rule. We're imperfect. We're human. If we have a rule of talk nicely to each other and you get really frustrated because, okay, I'm just going to tell you what happened one time with me. I used to be a nanny. Back in the day, I was watching a 3-year-old. We were running late and he was just being grump and I was kind of over it. It was not a good day all around. And so when we needed to cross the street, he needed to hold my hand to get to the car, and he didn't want to hold my hand, and I had a baby in a stroller and him there, and we were running late, and I was so frustrated that I just took his hand more forcefully than I needed to and kind of just pulled him because I was so frustrated. It was a time where I was so frustrated that I wanted to spank him. And that happens, and that is normal. And then we also need to model, oh, yeah, it's not okay. If your kid gets really frustrated, it's still not okay for them to hurt someone else's body. And so I remember this kid going, you pulled my arm. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, goodness. Yeah. I realized that I was frustrated and I was taking it out on him. And I have been teaching these kids, even if you're mad, you can't hit someone. That age 3 around there is a very hit because I'm angry phase. And I had just modeled, I'm frustrated, I hurt your body. And that's not cool. So I did say something very similar to this of, whoa, I did hurt your body, and I did it because I was really frustrated, and that's not okay, because it's not okay to hurt other people's bodies, even if we're really angry. I'm really sorry that I did that. Next time when I'm angry, I should take a big breath and calm down so that I can be nice to your body. And I'm sorry, I'll try better next time. And that's modeling. That's modeling how to take responsibility for yourself, how to problem solve. This is why I did something I didn't want to do or shouldn't have done. What can I do next time to make it different? And that's a really, really important thing in life. Kids, okay, people. People have a hard time taking responsibility for themselves, and teaching kids that, doing that narration of your thought process and how you can do this differently next time, it's a fantastic skill. It's one of the best things that you can do in front of your kids, is to take responsibility for times when you mess up, to figure out why that happened. Oh, I was frustrated. Or sometimes I could even be like, I let myself get too hungry, so I got grumpy, and then I did this. So I need to make sure next time if I'm feeling hungry that I eat a snack first, or pack a snack. Literally, I do. I get hangry really easy. I always have a granola bar or a kind bar in my bag. So we talked about what happens when a grown-up breaks a rule. Now what happens when a kid breaks a rule. We're going to talk about part of this, and then the next part is going to be in the follow-up video to this, which is how to give timeouts properly. Right now, we'll talk about if a kid breaks a rule. So the first thing is, let's say that they hit their brother. So what's important to them is to immediately, and I say go into their space, but not scary into their space, how we were going to get into their space nicely to get their attention. Go, hey, that's not okay. You identify what the rule is that they broke, and usually I just say, hey, that's not cool. It's not okay to do that. That's a rule. You can't hurt other people. And then to have a consequence. I'm a big fan of natural consequences, and I'm trying to go, what's a natural consequence for hitting someone? And it's kind of hard. You don't want to have the other kid hit him back or to hit them back. So there's a couple of choices. There could be, you need to play in a different area now so that you're not playing next to each other. That's a way, just, hey, be separate. But you could also say, hey, you need to go hang out in your room for a while, or you're gonna have a timeout. We're going to talk about in our next video what to do when you're gonna give your kid a timeout. If you're curious how to set a rule positively, like sometimes the rule is don't eat Play-Doh because there's just stuff that they never prepare you for as a parent. So something like that could be play with the Play-Doh in our hands. Sometimes it's kind of a stretch to figure out what kind of words work there. If you have any questions of how do I make this rule positively? I've seen ones where it's like, don't smell your brother's butt. Because kids are ridiculous. And I think that's one that could fall under respect each other's bodies, and that includes their personal space. Just let me know about those. If you have anything else you're interested in, I would love to do the videos that you guys want to see most. Please leave that in the comments. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you're in the Orange County, California area, you can call me up and see if you want to use my services. I do free parenting workshops twice a month. Literally, you can just register and show up if you're in this area. If you're not in the area, and well, you can't because you won't be here. I do free parenting workshops, I do parenting groups, I do parent coaching, and I do therapy that is targeted at parents to help them be able to be better parents. Because if you are struggling with mental illness or stress or loss or anything like that, it affects your ability to be an effective parent. I also do a lot of work with people with anxiety, depression, and in the LGBTQ community. If you're in the area, you can definitely go to my website that is in the description below and find out more or contact me. I would love to hear from you. Thanks. Bye.